right, everybody, welcome to the podcast for HowToRaiseAnAwesomeKid.com. This is Justin, and with me is Eric. How you doing, Eric?
Great, how are you?
I'm awesome, man. I'm awesome. So let's bring everybody up to date. This is, I believe, episode 7, and we did a Kickstarter episode before this. Maybe this is episode 6, and we deleted the Kickstarter episode like it never happened. The idea of the Kickstarter episode was mostly just to see if we could kind of draw in a little bit of people who are interested in Kickstarters. It was kind of like we're gonna like wag the dog type of thing, but it ended up just kind of like nothing happened. You know, one of the other dad blogs out there did like pitch in. That was pretty awesome. He kicked in some money. I haven't thanked him yet. I need to get to that.
Yeah, big thanks to the one guy that supported us. I mean, your support means the world.
That was awesome. You know, we just tried it out. It was fun, but I think I got a little too wrapped up into that. And then I also looks like at the same time I got a pretty bad stomach bug, and so I kind of use that as an excuse to just kind of wimp out on the site. So we're doing this podcast, and tomorrow's Monday, and I'm gonna dive in and start putting some stuff up on the site again.
Yeah.
And so that stinked. I mean, it stunk, but what did happen though in the meantime was this last week was that Eric, part of the Kickstarter was we were trying to fund a trip for Eric and I to hang out together and actually record one of these things together, and we didn't get the funding, but we still did it anyway. Actually, we were gonna do it anyway, but
yeah.
So Eric came to visit, and he hung out for a couple days, and there was a band that we both like in town, so he
what band is that?
The Five, the Ben Folds Five.
Yeah, we'll plug them.
Yeah,
Ben Folds Five, great show in Atlanta.
Yeah. So we went and saw them at the Tabernacle and had a lot of fun. And I'll leave it open for you, Eric. If there's something about this trip that you want to discuss, go right ahead. Go dive into it.
Gonna dive into the crystals.
Well, yeah, I set it up. I mean, the backstory behind this is that, as I understand it, is that Eric is a really big fan for whatever reason. I'll never understand. Of White Castle.
Hold on. Hit the brakes there for a second.
Sure.
Let me jump in.
Sure.
Myself and my family, we're from Indianapolis, and when it comes to like fast food hamburgers, I think White Castle, both my son and I really enjoy those. Now, we moved to Virginia, which in the White Castle to the north, Krystal to the south divide, we're in no man's land. Neither company is doing anything out here. So going to Atlanta, it's like, all right, I want to try Krystal. Because I hear those stuff you should know guys out of Atlanta who say, "Oh, Krystal and White Castle, that's about the same thing."
Now let's back up just a moment.
All right.
When you say fast food, you say that's one of your favorites among like fast food hamburgers. I mean, it's what they serve there isn't really a hamburger, is it? I mean, it's a sandwich that's been steamed. It's not cooked, right?
It is cooked, in fact. They don't serve raw meat.
It's not like it hasn't been grilled and hasn't been fried. It's just been like steamed, right? Is that how that works?
I feel the fast food hamburger is enough of a distinction. It's not the same like if you go to a proper restaurant and get a nice hamburger. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to confuse that. But certainly,
their distinction then is instead of like microwave steaming it, like maybe McDonald's might do, they're actually steaming it with some sort of process using real steam or something like that. Is that what's going on? I don't quite understand either one of them. I don't quite understand, the appeal behind either one. Aside from, I guess it's like a stoner food or.
Well, if you want to go into the history of it a little bit, White Castle is actually one of the first restaurants to do hamburgers on a fast food kind of level. Oh, yeah. And they also kind of pioneered the whole slider concept, the tiny hamburger. Now, you go to some fancy restaurant and get sliders. They're just going to be tiny, normal, proper hamburgers. White Castle is kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
And
so to anybody out there who might get antsy about what we're about to talk about, I should make clear that, Eric and I did spend a lot of time going to some other great restaurants in Atlanta. So it wasn't like, we went to Krystal and that was all we were looking for. I mean, we experienced some good stuff there, but for the sake of science, it was important to Eric to find out, how Krystal stacked up to White Castle.
Is that your shame disclaimer? Because
I just want to make sure, because I didn't want anybody.
Burgers.
I know that if I was listening to this, I would be very upset the whole time. Like, are you kidding me, you guys? Like, you went to Krystal. Like, Eric came to Atlanta for one of, it's like the second time I think, and you ate at Krystal. I'd be very upset that There's a lot of great places to eat here, and I'd be upset that you you may have missed out on them because you wanted to go to Krystal.
I wanted to try it, and we got a few of them over lunch one day because basically I just wanted to compare in my mind. Okay, is Krystal actually similar to White Castle?
Yeah.
I'd had some Krystals in an airport once, and it wasn't at the same level. But then again, it was airport food. So
Yeah. That doesn't really count.
yeah, that I didn't think that should count either. And I'll also throw a disclaimer in. You know, I like to mess with charcoal. I like to grill. I make a damn good burger. There's not too many places I can go to that I would rather have their burger than my burger.
Mm-hmm.
But I do consider like fast food burgers different. I can't make a White Castle. I can't make a McDonald's cheeseburger. And I'm not saying McDonald's cheeseburger is an excellent specimen of cheeseburgers, but it's its own food.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you a minute. One of the things that Eric and I talked about was, I said, listen, do you think that you could spend 15 minutes talking about the comparison between Krystal and White Castle, or even just a recap of what this White Castle experience or this Krystal experience was like? And Eric said that he can do it. So I want to make this, we're going to be completely transparent here. You guys go ahead and start timing it, starting about a minute ago. 14 minutes left. Let's hear it, Eric. I want to hear what happened. Paint the picture. Tell me what happened. Tell me all about the experience of walking into that particular Krystal, which is located on Moreland Avenue in Atlanta, kind of starting on the south side of Atlanta.
Okay, well, walking to that Krystal, first of all, the place was kind of a dump. Now, that doesn't necessarily distinguish it from White Castle, but it's not really a great first impression. I mean, it's kind of getting there. Your shoeing flies off. We did actually get peddled. Is that the word?
Panhandled, yeah.
Panhandled,
we did
yes.
At midway through the meal. Yeah, we did. Inside the restaurant. It wasn't like somebody waving from outside. Somebody just came up to the table and just straight up started asking for money.
Hey, guys, you're at Krystal, so you clearly have tons of cash. Do you have some I can have?
Yes.
And yeah, the kind of place that you're kind of skittish about actually getting your son into one of the child seats they had there because they were probably filled with communicable diseases.
I was skittish, but I had no physical problem because he slid right in because everything about that chair was covered in a layer of grease or steam, one of the two, or steamy grease, greasy steam. Something happened there that made that chair covered in grease and hepatitis. So anyway.
Yeah, so getting in there, it just was not a great place to go to begin with. Kind of looking at the menu, and I checked it out online a little bit before, kind of gave me some second thoughts about the whole experience. One thing that White Castle is it's very focused on what they do well. You're not going to find too much crazy stuff. They've played with things like pulled pork or whatever, but they're not trying to do full-size burgers and trying to feed those to people. Krystal's not really too sure what it wants to do. It's got all kinds of these various sandwiches and full-size burgers and chili cheese fries and stuff like that, which we had, and although they're not bad, I don't really go to cheap places to get chili sauce for anything because it sounds like an invitation to dysentery.
Yeah, I mean, you should mention they also have like a breakfast menu that's going on where they have bowls, and they're bowls full of, I think, like grits as a they're bowls full of like grits with a layer of bacon and then like a layer of cheese, or eggs with a layer of bacon and then a layer of cheese, or some other starch and a layer of bacon and cheese. Basically, that's kind of what their breakfast is going on, and you mix it up.
Seems almost generic fast foody, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I thought was pretty informative is as we were walking up, I heard somebody at the drive-thru saying that they wanted to get, four hamburgers without onions. In the White Castle realm, that would have been laughed off as an impossibility. What they do
is it because is it steamed into the meat, or why is it impossible?
Well, because how White Castles are made is they've got this great big flat steaming surface with thin burgers, 5 holes cut in the burger to try to let the steam in or something. But the burgers aren't just placed on the steamer; they're actually placed on a bed of dehydrated onions. So the onions are more or less one with this burger concoction.
Yeah.
They slapped
Did you? And I'm sure the people are going to be curious about this. Did you work at a White Castle, or what is it about the process that you already know so much? Why did you know so much about it?
Well, that's another interesting thing that kind
is there like a really great Wikipedia article, or?
No, it's actually whenever you go to a White Castle, they've got this big glass cabinet. They've got the
Oh.
counter, but you can see what they're doing right there. It's done
Oh.
right in front of the customer. It's kind of like an old-time pizza joint.
Or like sushi or something. Like,
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
it's another, culinary delight, like sushi. One of the things that I noticed at Krystal is that you really could not see how they're making the food. But
and
everything else,
we were probably better off. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest.
everything else about the restaurant was kind of screaming that that's for the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just can't get White Castles without onions. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
So one thing they did at Krystal is they had a little bit of onion on there, kind of like what you might find on a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Mhm.
They also had ketchup and mustard, I believe. I know they had mustard because that in particular was a little disappointing. Ketchup, you can do, ketchup's ketchup. Ketchup is a peasant's condiment. Nobody likes it.
As I've gotten older, I actually have shied away from ketchup. I don't like ketchup on anything. Maybe on fries every once in a while, but I'll give people weird glances if they put ketchup on a hot dog. I think like we're beyond that.
Yeah, I think ketchup is one of those condiments that you use for things that don't taste too good to begin with. Like if it's some kind of cheap hot dog, okay, maybe some ketchup would try to save it. But if it's like a quality hot dog, like a Vienna beef hot dog or something like that, no, you're not going to put ketchup on that. What are you, stupid? But
Vienna beef. Right.
the mustard at Krystal, just plain yellow mustard. Same thing that squirts out of every bottle, One of the things that really differentiates White Castle to me is they use this horseradish mustard that frankly lights you up. You definitely notice it. Most White Castles, I think you have to request it. I think this kind of varies from franchise to franchise. Sometimes they just put the mustard on automatically. But it's fantastic mustard. I mean, the mustard's so good, you don't really need a cheeseburger there. Just get it with the mustard.
Wow.
It's wonderful. Also, I was a little disappointed in the options for sides at Krystal. I think there was French fries, and they're pretty standard French fries.
Oh man, they had all kinds of French fries. They had French fries. They had French fries with cheese, and French fries with chili, and French fries with chili and cheese.
So the options are French fries or French fries with crap on them.
French fries with varying levels of goop on them. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. That's in my book. That's another point in the White Castle column because.
Well, what does White Castle have to offer, man? Let's hear
All
it.
right, start with the basic French fry. They've got these big, thick, crinkle cut French fries, which not saying that you should go to fast food restaurants to eat healthy, but they're probably about the healthiest fast food French fry you can get, just because there's less of that surface on them that's been fried in oil. They're big, they're thick.
What? Back it seems to me like a crinkle cut would be. I mean, that would be. You have like that third dimension. There's even more surface that's exposed to being fried.
And if they were as narrow as a normal fry, you'd be right. But they're big, thick fries.
Okay, I see what you're saying. All right,
And
yeah, the ones at
balances it
Krystal
out.
were just like kind of shoestringy.
Yep, and they'll put seasoning salt on those fries for you, and it's awesome. But there's a lot beyond fries. When I was growing up, we always had the onion chips, which is, I guess, the same concept as onion rings, except they're not rings; they're chips, and they smell really bad when you fart them out about 6 hours later.
Oh God! Oh man, we went there on this podcast, huh?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Well,
You can't talk about White Castle without talking about that. I will say that Krystal did not have the gastric effects that White Castle usually does.
so that's 1 point in the column of Krystal, then, huh?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
All right. So what else? What did you think about? I mean, about how about the quality of, or let's say the value? I mean, of what you paid for it versus what you got. I think it was like $7, and that got you 5 chili cheese crystals, or was it cheese crystals? I don't know exactly. I don't remember.
Chili
exactly
cheese fries always distort everything.
It was all a blur, and
They're too
actually,
expensive.
I'm actually trying not to focus too much on this conversation because it's kind of making me nauseous again.
Yeah.
But it was something. It was like 5 of those things, plus like a boat of chili cheese fries.
Yeah, I think the prices were somewhat comparable. Somewhere in the 50 cents per burger ballpark. If you're not going with cheese. Now, I will say that White Castle tends to do the packages a little better. You don't have to just get value meals there of like 4 burgers. You can get, the sack of 10 is a popular thing to grab. If you've got a couple buddies with you, you can go for the Crave case, where you get 30 of these White Castles, and they're happy little boxes, and they're all stuffed into this cardboard suitcase, complete with handle. And
Wow.
some locations even have the Crave crate, where you can get 100 of them and get the same kind of treatment. They get a crate that just makes you look real disgusting.
This reminds me of I heard McDonald's recently was selling like 100. Was it something like 100? You could buy 100 chicken nuggets, and I guess it was for like a party or something like that. If you wanted to, like maybe if you were watching football.
Yeah.
And
And you're watching it with a bunch of 5-year-olds.
Yeah. Who wants 100 Krystal? Who wants 100 of White Castle burgers? Who wants that?
People who are either on a gaming binge or cleaning
Yeah,
up
but you
after
can't.
a party.
Wait a second. Those things don't keep. You got to eat them.
No,
like,
you do.
yeah.
You absolutely do. I think you'll probably find the 100 cases closer to the college campuses.
Yeah, I couldn't. Oh, so that's like hey, let's everybody chip in $3, and then we'll get 100 or something like that.
Yeah, you can't be oblivious to the whole Harold and Kumar go to White Castle thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the only reason to go there is because you're stoned and you need to, but it is a key element of their demographics. I mean, if you show up there at 3 a.m., which I used to work at FedEx, I'd be getting off work around that time. I've been to plenty of White Castles at 3 a.m. and
Is that kind of their claim to fame? Are they open 24 hours or
Yes.
just open late?
24 hours,
Gotcha.
man, all the
How
time.
long has that been the case?
As far as I know, since the dawn of time.
Really? Oh wow. So that's their, like, I guess that's got to be their claim to fame. We didn't have fast food places open 24 hours until, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I think like Burger King started, or not Burger King, Taco Bell started staying open till like 2, and then maybe 3, and then maybe 4, and then McDonald's, some of their locations started going all the way to like 24 hours. So White Castle must have been like the leader in that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So okay,
exactly
I can
when they
see
started, but
the appeal now. I understand.
It's been my entire level of experience with them that they're open 24 hours.
Hmm.
I could always go there on the way home from work and, disgust everybody I was coming home to.
Yeah, well, and it's definitely got a smell. I ordered the same thing you did. I got the 5, and I think I was only able to finish 4 of them. But kind of only because I was pretty hungry at the moment. But I mean,
Yeah.
it was a bad experience. And I told you at the time, like, I saw one when I first moved here to Atlanta, and so I was like, oh, I gotta try that. And so I did. Within like the first year of living here, I tried that, and then that was it. I hadn't had one since you and I went to hang out there.
Mhm.
And it was a good reminder, and it'll probably be like another 4 or 5 years before I go back to one.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy never going back to Krystal. I mean, it's not that it was terrible as far as
Yeah.
fast food experiences go. It happened. I don't think it was particularly disastrous, but White Castle is kind of known for the crave. That's kind of their marketing, but it's marketing that kind of fed into some behavior that was going on beforehand. You do get a crave for those things. I know a lot of people who visit Indiana or somewhere up north, and whenever they go back, they're always stopping at White Castle as an important part of their trip.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure I've ever had White Castle. I've had like that the what you can get at the frozen food section.
Yeah.
I've had that. Actually, I've had that more than once. I think I got them a couple times, and I found like the secret was you microwave them on one side, whatever the time is, like a minute or whatever.
Yeah.
You microwave them for 30 seconds on one side, and then you flip it over and microwave the other 30 seconds on the other side, so that way one part doesn't get too soggy. That's the only thing I know about White Castle. Basically.
Yeah, realistically, sogginess is part of the experience with White Castle because they slap these buns on these burgers when they're still cooking. So
Yeah.
the steam goes up through the onions, through the meat, through the buns. And because of that, the onion just, penetrates everything. You eat those things, you smell like onion, everybody knows you just had White Castle.
God, that sounds terrible.
If by terrible
sounds-
you mean awesome.
It sounds so awful.
I think probably one of the happiest days in my parenting life was when I got my son to really like White Castle, much to my wife's horror.
Yeah, it does sound horrible.
He had a rough day. He had to go to the dentist and had shots or something. I can't remember. And we were trying to say, okay, well, Julie, you can go wherever you want. And he's like, I don't want anything, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how about White Castle? He said, that sounds good. And my wife just gives me the stink eye so hard.
Oh, man. Yeah, and I guess there's no backing out at that point. Like, it's that day, you know. So
I know.
You gotta do it. Well, I think that's it, man. That's 15 minutes of White Castle / Krystal. A topic that I personally hope we never visit again. I do feel a little bit sick right now after having that conversation.
Well, I know we're planning on visiting, going back to Indiana this December, and before we even get to where we're going to be staying at, I'm getting a sack of 10.
Nice. Nice. Now, how is that? I don't. We're going to move off the subject, but how does that work? What is a sack of 10? What is that like? Is that a sack of 10 that you share with your wife, or is that a sack of 10 for you? And again, we've already established that they don't keep. So
yeah, back in the day, it would have been a sack of 10 for me.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to eat healthier, and I cannot gorge myself as much as I used to. So realistically, I'll probably share that with my son. Get some onion chips to go with it.
Nice. All right. So there's a kid involved.
Mm-hmm.
He can help you out.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Well, these days we'll actually cover like nutrition with kids, but for now, maybe this will have to be our nutrition episode.
Hey, I've mentioned that my son eats tofu, so take that.
Yeah. Well, then there you go. Yeah, that's well rounded.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't really have anything about nutrition, but I'll talk about it. What's your attitude towards like kids' nutrition, especially like when they first start eating food? I don't know. Your Harrison's, your son's what? He's 4 months old now.
Yep.
5 months.
5 months. Yeah.
5 months. So he's about a month away before you guys start giving him a little bit of something.
Yeah, and
like oatmeal and that type of thing.
My wife's been super excited because she got this baby bullet that's kind of like a steamer, a chopper, and it puts out these little containers. You can put food in there. So all of his solid food is going to be homemade.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely for the baby, focusing on healthy vegetables and that kind of thing, sweet potatoes. He started oatmeal a little bit, but he makes a real mess with it.
He makes a mess. How's that?
Yeah.
How's that happen?
Well, because he doesn't understand that part of eating is closing your mouth and swallowing.
Oh, yeah.
But he does love banana. Every now and then, we're eating a banana, mush up a little tiny piece of it in our fingers and give it to him. And now whenever we have a banana, he starts staring at us. He
Yeah,
wants
my kid's actually, the other day I gave him 3 bananas and like breakfast, lunch, dinner. He loves bananas, man, but he we found some of those little jars of like Gerber type food. It wasn't Gerber, it was some sort of all natural whatever. And we ended up just kind of using those for travel purposes because my wife had one of those things too. Those little choppers that you can just make your own food. That's what we ended up doing. He ate when he was in that phase, where he's being spoon fed. He ate a lot of sweet potatoes. That was kind of his go-to food. He would reliably eat that. We learned kind of the hard way that he hates carrots. We fed him like pureed carrots a couple times. The first time, we didn't realize it was carrots, but the first time he had like exorcist vomiting going on.
Nice.
And then the second time basically the exact same thing. So we realized pretty quickly like, all right, no more carrots forever. So and the last month we turned the corner where he's now eating with his fingers, and that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, he was making a real mess when I was there.
Yeah, I mean that's great because we put down like chopped vegetables in front of him and Cheerios basically. Cheerios is kind of the big turning point for him because it's all been fruits and veggies up until now. So now he's got a little bit of, I guess they're oats, so it's still kind of it's that. But yeah, he's got Cheerios and fruits and veggies, and that's kind of what he's been eating.
Well, you guys were smart in doing that. You have a dog. I can't imagine what it's like to have a 1-year-old who's starting to eat solid foods by himself without having a dog to catch the food that falls on the floor.
I can't. We have a Roomba too. We never hooked up since we moved here, but even that would not really go too well. Like picking up all the chunks of food. Yeah. I don't know what a lazy person would do. A lazy person like me. I'm not entirely sure what we would do without a dog because the dog. It's just kind of like release the hound. I'll let her into the kitchen and she kind of makes short order of everything.
I can imagine that if you set the Roomba going instead of the dog, then you're just going to be able to clean a chicken pot pie out of it probably every other day.
Yeah, basically. That's kind of what would happen. It would be pretty disgusting. The Roomba's been mostly out of commission. Somebody was dog sitting for us, and one of the dogs made a mess, and nobody caught it in time. So the Roomba ended up eating it, and it was I don't know. We've kind of shied away from the Roomba ever since then. It's not. It
The
was
Roomba
thoroughly,
is dead to you.
yeah, it was thoroughly cleaned out, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, how bad would it be just to grab a broom and clean the house ourselves? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's worked out so far as like having the dog and also just feeding him fruits and veggies. We had, we gave him his cake for his first birthday, and he was not interested. I shoved his hand in it, and he was just he tasted the icing, and he was just like, whatever. It wasn't really his thing. So far so good. He doesn't seem to like be really latching on to anything bad.
Yeah. I think we tend to eat relatively healthy. I know I tend to talk about the unhealthy stuff a lot more because tofu veggie stir fry isn't interesting.
Yeah.
But our older one, Julian, he's not picky about it, so he'll eat just about anything we eat. I figure we'll have to worry more about nutrition and pickiness when we have to cross that bridge if Harrison ends up being that way or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I got I was not to change the subject. Well, I'm going to change the subject. I got this thing the other day, or it's kind of like a new toy we got last week. And I've thought about maybe doing reviews on the site, and most of the reviews that are out there on these types of sites, like mom blogs, dad blogs, that type of thing, they are. I'm not entirely sure they're paid, but they're sponsored, or maybe the product is sent for free. So the product is sent to the person for free, and then they oops, I'm just trying to log in. Then they review it, and that's kind of the agreement. And I'm not entirely sure if there's editorial input from whoever makes the product, whoever sold the product. But we got this thing. You can look it up on Amazon. It's about $70 right now. It's called the Loftek camera, and we have the video monitor, and the video monitor died. The screen went kaput on it. So we got this thing. It's like $70, and it's kind of plug and play. You just plug it into the power socket, and you have to do a little magic with your phone in order to get it to connect to your Wi-Fi. And then once you do that, then you can use your phone or your computer to monitor your kid. Basically, it does video, audio, it has night vision, and all that stuff. So that's been my fun over the weekend, just trying that out. It doesn't work exactly the greatest. I think we need to extend our Wi-Fi to the upstairs a little better.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's kind of nice because I showed my wife. I was able to hook it up and then I called her up and I said, hey, go to this website and log in, and she could see the kid, and she almost went into tears because she was so excited being able to see the kid. So that was cool.
Yeah.
For whatever it's worth. I don't know.
Well, while we're changing the subject, my little toenail fell out yesterday. That was weird.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Was it forcibly removed, or is it just kind of spontaneous?
I was just sitting on the couch, and it was all loose, and I just gave it barely a tug. It's oh, this whole thing just came out. That's pretty disgusting.
So what happens? Have you Googled that? Has you WebMD'd that? I mean, does it?
I mostly just poked at it a little bit.
Does it regrow, or is that the first sign of radiation poisoning, or what's?
I think it'll regrow. I'm confident.
I'm gonna check my little toe down. This might be a side effect of going to Krystal, man. I don't know.
It could be.
If they don't remove something from your wallet before you leave, then they remove your pinky toe.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that's all I had. It looks like I checked the time. It looks like you did get your 15 minutes in on Krystal. So
excellent.
Way
Take
to
that,
go.
Krystal. You're not White Castle.
I expect to hear from the lawyers anymore. All right, man. Thanks for talking to me.
All right.